Just yesterday, Tesla released their new version of the Model S and Model X. From the outside, nearly nothing looks different, but a ton has changed inside and under the hood of this car that most people don't know about yet, so let's get into it. The Model S has remained largely unchanged over the years, with the integrated vertical display being unchanged since its initial launch in 2012. Many people still loved this car, but many others, including myself, felt that it was getting a little bit dated. Not only had the exterior not really changed much other than this front nose in 2016, but the interior had only small tweaks here and there. If you compare the 2012 Model S and the 2020 Model S, you'd probably notice some differences on the interior, but overall there wouldn't be a ton. Well, Tesla liquidated inventory of the Model S and X in January. The new cars were showing up in software and more, so all signs were pointing to a change large enough that they needed their old inventory gone before launching something new. From the outside, there isn't much to notice, but the interior of the Model S has changed a ton. Most notably, they went with a horizontal screen and changed the steering wheel to their yoke steering, very similar to the wheel on the hopefully upcoming Roadster. But there's a lot more to this refresh than meets the eye in the first photos, and we're going to talk about 15 features of these cars you probably haven't heard about. To start off with, number 1. The Model S and X took a design from the Model 3 and Y, which is the main difference you'll notice in the exterior. It now has a matte black trim, or as some people like to call it, chrome delete. The previous Model S and X featured a chrome trim along with the Model 3, but a large portion of owners would simply wrap all the chrome around the car, leading Tesla to first go with a black trim on the Model Y. They updated it later on the 2021 Model 3 refresh, and now it has made its way to the Model S and X. Some people like the chrome, but overall I think the matte black has a better look with Tesla's paint colors. Also, every time I've driven a Model S, the chrome on the front left mirror would give me a lot of glare, so this new trim will be much better for that. Now, number 2 is also something that was taken from the Model 3 and Y. The Model S and X traditionally come with a fairly normal but Tesla-styled key fob that unlocks the car when you walk up to it. With the Model 3 and then Y, Tesla went with a different direction, using your phone as the primary key. It uses Bluetooth as well as the Tesla app to sense when you are getting close to your car, and the car will automatically unlock. Previously, the Model S and X could use the phone app, but not passively like you can with the Model 3 and Y. As a backup to the Model 3 phone as key feature, Tesla includes 2 key cards that fit in your wallet. You tap those on the side pillar, it unlocks, and then you tap it on the front console to drive. This is still the backup though, because Tesla designs phone as key to be the primary key, and for the most part it is way more convenient than having an actual key. Well, they are bringing this same technology to the updated Model S and X, so the primary key will be your phone. You'll also get those 2 backup key cards, and then apparently Tesla still plans to include key fobs as well for their more premium vehicles, which makes a lot of sense when you're paying this much for a car. So in the future, if you buy a Model S, you might get 5 keys. We'll see how that works out, and maybe you choose when you take delivery. Number 3 involves the security system on the Model S. Tesla added an interior radar for intrusion sensing. From what I can tell, this is the same feature that they used to offer as a $350 upgrade for the old Model S. The description says, quote, "Increase your vehicle's protection with active sensor technology designed to detect motion inside the cabin as well as sense if the vehicle is moved or tilted. It will warn against potential theft with an audible alarm." It doesn't sound like a lot, but when choosing this accessory for an older Model S from Tesla's online store, you have to choose which headliner you have, so it seems like it's enough of a change that it has to match your exact interior. Now this extra layer of security is included in the Model S and X. Now number 4 is the craziest part about the new Model S and X by far, the steering wheel. At first glance, it simply looks like a new, crazy design that will be pretty polarizing. But Tesla describes this wheel saying, quote, "The ultimate focus on driving. No stalks, no shifting. Model S is the best car to drive and the best car to be driven in." It sounds great, but how do you go into reverse? Do you have to do that on the screen? Well, it's even more insane than you would expect from Tesla. An official Tesla document says, quote, "The vehicle uses its autopilot sensors to intelligently and automatically determine intended drive modes and select them. For example, if the front of Model S/X is facing a garage wall, it will detect this and automatically shift to reverse once the driver presses the brake pedal. This eliminates one more step for the drivers of the world's most intelligent production cars." I'm honestly a little bit shocked at this and really curious to try this in person. It seems like it could be one of those things that sounds horrible at first, but then you get used to it and you can't imagine living without it, but the opposite could be true. Well, Elon tweeted about this as well, saying, quote, "No more stocks. Car guesses drive direction based on what obstacles it sees, context, and nav map. You can override on touchscreen. It will use maps, cameras, and more to figure this out, and it seems like an advanced feature somewhat getting enabled by their advances in full self-driving. It still sounds frightening to most people, so Elon followed that up saying, quote, "After you drive without using a PRND stock/stick for a few days, it gets very annoying to go back and use a shifter." According to Elon's tweets, you can override these options on the screen, but reportedly they are also adding force touch buttons for the gear shifting at the base of the wireless charger in the front console if needed. What I'm curious to see is if in practice, many owners just end up using those buttons, or if the smart features are good enough to use regularly. So that is the biggest and craziest part about this wheel. No stocks, no blinker stock, no autopilot stock, no windshield wiper stock, no drive stock, no nothing. On the steering wheel itself, it includes the same scroll wheels you'd see on the Model 3 and Y, but it also includes force touch buttons for turn signals, high beams, autopilot, voice controls, windshield controls, and even honking. On the left side there, you can see lights and turn signals. On the right, you can see the other ones I mentioned. Force touch buttons can actually be a little bit annoying if you can't really feel where you're pressing without looking, so we'll definitely have a lot to investigate when this wheel and these cars begin deliveries. Moving on to number 5, which is once again something Tesla took from the Model 3 and Y. Tesla has long-term plans for full self-driving. Even on the earnings call yesterday, Elon was reiterating that he believes they will achieve full self-driving this year, where the car does all the work and you don't have to take over at all. Tesla plans to make a robotaxi network, and for this, they introduced an interior selfie camera into the Model 3 and then Model Y. This camera has now been added to the Model S and X, showing that Tesla continues to hold confidence in their future robotaxi network. This Model S and X should be able to be on that same network, and this selfie camera will be there as an extra layer of security in case anyone messes with your car. Number 6 is something brand new to the Model S and X, and brand new for Teslas in general, the updated battery pack. Now we know from Tesla's battery day that they will be moving to their own 4680 battery cells and a structural battery pack long term. In this new Model S and X, they completely changed and redesigned the battery pack, but it is still using the cells from the original versions of these cars. These in fact are older cells called 18650, and the Model 3 and Y have 2170 cells, which are different. Reportedly, this new battery pack includes updated chemistry on the old cells, but keeps the form factor. In regards to the pack itself, we can see quite a few differences just looking at before and after photos. Here is a before photo of the Model S battery pack consisting of 14 modules and thousands of cells within those. And here's the new battery pack with a much different setup. The main changes are to thermal performance, with coolant that cools more efficiently and evenly, keeping the battery pack at proper temperatures. According to Electric, quote, "There are two main performance improvements that are enabled by the new thermal performance of the new battery pack. Faster charging that is now on par with Model 3 and Model Y at 250 kilowatts, and repeatability of power out for consistent back-to-back quarter-mile runs or laps." What's interesting to note as well is that Tesla is going with this design for the Model S Long Range and Plaid, but most likely the Plaid Plus version, still coming at the end of this year, will include the 4680 cells and structural battery pack. When asked about exactly this back in October, Elon's response was, "Yeah." At that time, we didn't know that they would introduce a lower range Plaid Model S, but now it makes sense that they will keep the Model S and X with the old cells and new pack design and introduce the Model S Plaid Plus at the end of the year, which requires their new cells to achieve an insane 520 plus mile range. Now number 7 is, you guessed it, another thing taken from the Model 3 and Y that is now implemented on the Model S and X. It's a pretty small change, but the Model S and X include physical handles inside the car to open the doors. On the Model 3 and then Y, Tesla changed this so you press a button and it electronically opens the door about a half an inch or so for you to then open. There are backup releases located elsewhere in case this system fails, and now they are putting this same system in the Model S and X. You can see the door release button on the sides right there, and reportedly, as opposed to being a physical button like the Model 3 and Model Y is, this will also be a force touch button, much like the rest of the buttons in these new cars. There will also be those backup releases as well. For number 8, according to Electric, the frunk on the Model S and X has been changed due to the new battery pack and powertrain that these cars include. The front still includes close to the same amount of space but has changed shape a bit, and we'll see photos of that in the coming days or weeks. On top of that, the trunk space remains great in both cars, but reportedly has a bit more width in the Model X than it did before. Number 9 is something that will make you feel a little better that the design of the exterior of these cars hasn't changed at all. The Model S, according to Tesla, is the lowest drag car on Earth, with a drag coefficient of 0.208. Quote, with the lowest drag coefficient on Earth and unmatched efficiency, Model S is built for speed and range. Together with a wider body and chassis, these elements help you go down the straight or around corners quicker than ever. Tesla says this is thanks to performance-focused wheels that enable responsive performance, optimized aerodynamics, and refined styling to combine an iconic look with elegant proportions. The Model X is the same, coming in at the lowest drag SUV on Earth with a drag coefficient of 0.25. Tesla lists the same reasonings for achieving this low drag, including new wheels and tires, optimized aerodynamics, and refined styling. Speaking of tires and wheels, number 10 is exactly that. According to Electrek, quote, Tesla claims that it is now using advanced tires in the new Model S and Model X that should result in better rolling plushness and make the ride even smoother. Smoother tires coupled with Tesla's air suspension should make these cars even smoother to drive than before, which is always a great thing. Number 11 is the last feature taken from the Model 3 and Y, and that is the climate control. The original Model S and X feature fairly normal vents that you would physically direct towards you. With the Model 3 and Y, Tesla adopted this very clean-looking dash with somewhat hidden vents across the whole strip. You control everything, including the direction of the airflow, on screen, and Tesla is now implementing this in the Model S and Model X. It helps make the interior look more clean, but of course, they didn't just take the Model 3 vents, they improved on it. It reportedly uses the screen and other surfaces to help direct airflow and make it feel as though the air is blowing out of the screens, including the instrument cluster directly in front of you. It's very customizable on screen, just like the Model 3 and Y, but it will have an even larger interface since the instrument cluster is handling the important driving tasks. It'll be interesting to see if this new Model S gets Model 3 and Model Y owners jealous of two screens, or if they stick to their guns and say that one screen is all you need. At the very least, it makes absolute sense for an instrument cluster to be on the world's fastest production car. Which brings us to number 12. The Model S Plaid is the fastest production car ever made. It's the first production car ever to achieve a 0 to 60 in less than 2 seconds, and that's for the version that is coming in March, according to Tesla's website, so a little over a month. It comes in at $119,990, and then towards the end of the year, Tesla will beat that speed with their Plaid Plus version, including the fastest 0 to 60 and quarter-mile acceleration of any production car ever, less than 1.99 seconds. How much less? Time will tell, but I wouldn't be surprised if they beat this by a decent amount. This is enabled by instant torque on the electric car, Tesla's insane powertrain, and their 3 high-performance motors included on both Plaid Model S versions. Number 13 is the second row seats in the Model S. At first glance, these seats look nice, but not too different than before. What has been added is the folding center console that includes cup holders as well as a phone charger. As you can see a tiny bit in this photo, underneath the folding armrest on the center console for the rear seats is a wireless charger that the rear passengers can utilize. Definitely a better, cleaner, and more modern solution than phone charging cables. Additionally, thanks to the interior refresh in the front seats have reportedly been pushed forward just a little bit, giving the rear seats more legroom and headroom than before. The rear seat positioning is also more reclined than before and folds even flatter than the seats used to fold in the past. Overall, it seems like comfort, entertainment, features, and utility have all been improved for the new Model S rear seats. We don't know this for sure, but it seems like the same situation could be the case in the Model X with more legroom, headroom, and more recline, but it appears there is no fold-down armrest with an included wireless charger in the Model X. This photo is of the Model S, but you can see 2 USB-C ports below the screen, so that's likely what you'll need to use in the rear instead of the rear wireless charger in the Model X. Number 14 has to do with the screens in the Model S and X. Clearly they have all been updated, and the front screen is 17 inches, 2 inches larger than the one and only screen on the Model 3 and Y. This adds more room, but sources are also reporting that the screen is tilting as well. The Model 3 and Y screen sticks out from the dash but is fixed. Apparently the Model S and X will have the ability to tilt that screen left or right depending on who is using it and what they need it for. Tesla has lots of games on screen, and with the instrument cluster handling the important driving things, it's entirely possible for a passenger to tilt the screen towards them and play a game. Also, in the future, Tesla of course plans for the driver to be able to play these games as well while the car is driving for them. In that case, and most likely in daily driving, the driver can tilt the screen towards them. Previously, the vertical screen of the Model S was a little tilted towards the driver, so it'll make a lot of sense for that to be an option. Last up, number 15 is something small but important, the front cup holders. In the Model S, the front cup holder placement was never ideal and definitely encroached on arm space. The new Model S and X center console includes retractable cup holders within the lower storage, so they will be much more out of your arm's way when driving. Additionally, each door will have deep pockets to hold bottles and such as well. So there you have it, 15 new features on the new Model S and X that Tesla didn't really talk about when unveiling these new cars. Overall, I'm super excited to drive one of these, and I think the interior refresh is exactly what Tesla needed to do for these cars. I'll keep you posted on any new developments, so make sure to subscribe to this channel for lots more videos like this. Make sure to like this video if you appreciated it. You can also follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and now TikTok at RyanShawTech. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.